Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am Caleb Calhoun. Dave Hooker is out today, so it's just me and you guys. We got a lot to get to after a huge weekend in college football, the SEC and Tennessee. One of the biggest weekends, one of the most fun weekends if you're a Tennessee fan, but one of the wildest weekends in the history of football. It made, even though I still don't believe in the 12-team playoff, that's one of those Saturdays that absolutely validated what everybody says about why there should be a 12-team playoff. I'll concede that, but overall, no, I still don't believe in it. But that's a debate for another day. We got a lot to get to today. We're going to talk about what was the most exciting part of Saturday for Tennessee outside of the win over Utah. We're also going to ask about Tennessee fans doing the Gator Chomp in Neyland Stadium. Very weird, very odd. Does it mean anything? Does Tennessee want a college football playoff home game? Tennessee could be in contention for that now after everything that happened over the weekend, but are they sure that's something they want? We're going to ask that question. Eli Drinkwitz makes a fool of himself again. What's new? He seems to do that all the time. We have the stat of the day, this day in Tennessee football history. We also have coverage of some more bad SEC officiating. And just so everybody knows, it's bad. It's really, really, really bad. And so we're going to get into that. It was really embarrassing, honestly, what we're going to talk about. And we'll also talk a little bit about Tennessee basketball. Before the weekend went crazy, the basketball Vols looked like they are a national title contender. There, I said it. They're one of the best teams in the sport right now. They're looking really, really, really good. So a lot to get to and a lot of fun to do today. First, I want to point out to you that the show is brought to you by Banks & Jones and Medicare Misty. As we get started, we have our poll question up, and it was, and I want you guys to vote on it, what was the best part of the weekend outside of Tennessee's win? Was it Ohio State blowing out Indiana, Florida beating Ole Miss, or Oklahoma beating Alabama? Those are the questions, and let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about how exciting this win and the weekend was for Tennessee. First topic brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Go to chatmortgage.com. That's CHATT mortgage.com. Chat with two T's, mortgage.com. All right, so over the weekend, Tennessee on senior day beat UTEP 56-0. It was a slow start, but it turned out to be a memorable senior day, as Tennessee put on a show in the second and third quarters in particular. It was a lot of fun, and the Vols really showed out, and everybody was happy. But that ended up not being the biggest story of the day for Tennessee. The biggest story of the day was what else happened in the sport. There were three games that had a big impact on Tennessee outside of Tennessee's win over Utah. Florida beat Ole Miss as Tennessee was playing UTEP. Ohio State blew out Indiana as Tennessee was playing UTEP. And later that night, Oklahoma beat Alabama. Obviously, what do these things all have in common? Ole Miss, Indiana, and Alabama were all ahead of the Vols in the college football playoff. So which one was most significant to Tennessee? They were actually all significant in their own ways, believe it or not. Let's start with the non-SEC game for a minute, Ohio State and Indiana. It would have been one thing if Indiana kept that game close and they did score early to make it 7-0. But Ohio State beat them 38-15 in a game that could have been 55-7 if anybody watched that game, honestly. They were significantly better. Indiana and head coach Curt Cignetti looked way out of their element. They did not look like they belonged. And quite honestly, I got to be fair, they don't belong in the college football playoff. Now, you can come at me and talk about, hey, Alabama lost. There's a lot of 3-loss SEC teams now, and given all of those, and Indiana still has a path in. I don't really think so. I think SMU actually should get in over Indiana if you really break down the resumes of both teams. I would take a wild card Big 12 team over Indiana. Look, Indiana has beaten one team with a winning record all year. It's a miserable schedule, guys. It's a horrible schedule. So not only the question with Indiana is whether or not one loss will drop them below some of the other major teams, as the fact that they do play in the Big Ten does give them somewhat of an advantage. And I want to be fair, guys. The Illinois win is not a bad win. I'll say that much. Indiana does have at least one decent win to hold their hat on, and that would be the Illinois win. But Ohio State blowing them out the way they did, you just have to think that that's just not a good football team at that point. Ohio State and interestingly enough, Indiana and Penn State, both their best win is Illinois. That is a top 25 team. Now, if you take away the loss to Minnesota, Illinois actually looks pretty good. So I will be fair to Indiana on that. So with that, they still have a case to get to the college football playoff, but I think SMU has as strong as a case as a wild card. Of course, SMU could go and get an automatic bid by winning the ACC title, although I'm not sure that's going to happen. The two ones that affected Tennessee the most were the two SEC ones. Florida beating Ole Miss was a double whammy for Tennessee. It was a huge benefit. Let me just break down why. Ole Miss was obviously head of the Vols in the college football playoff race. Ole Miss had 2 losses. They were actually ahead of Georgia too. Lane Kiffin looked like he was going to be the one standing in Tennessee's way to reach the CFP playoff. But what happened? Ole Miss lost to Florida thanks to Jackson Dart throwing 2 interceptions. Not only does Ole Miss losing help Tennessee in the fact that they propel Ole Miss, but Florida winning helps Tennessee too. For actually 2 reasons. One, Florida's 6-5 now. By all indications, they should beat Florida State to finish 7-5 this year, even though they're on the road. And then they will have closed out the year beating LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. I mean, Billy Napier all of a sudden looks like the coach of the year. But on top of that, not only did Florida looks like a quality win for Tennessee now. Florida looks like a very good win for Tennessee. That's a team with a winning record that Tennessee has beaten that will in all likelihood finish 7-5. You have to give Florida a lot of credit for that. The other part of this is DJ Lagway played for Florida on Saturday. Everybody thinks in college football, or everybody that knows college football, makes a very strong case that Florida is a top 25 caliber team when DJ Lagway is in there. They've looked like that. They're not when Graham Mertz is in there. Now against Tennessee, DJ Lagway got hurt. Graham Mertz came in. Graham Mertz did throw a touchdown pass late in the game to send the game into overtime. So you can't really say that Tennessee may have won just because DJ Lagway got hurt. But even if you do say that, guys, the committee's not going to know that. If they look far enough just to see that Florida's a top 25 caliber team when DJ Lagway's in there, they're going to see that DJ Lagway played against Tennessee. The committee doesn't watch the games. I've told you guys that. So because of that fact, Tennessee gets the double whammy of beating a winning team in Florida and the fact that they beat Florida when Florida had DJ Lagway out there, and the committee's not going to know that Lagway did not finish the game. They're not going to know that at all because they didn't watch it. The committee is way too lazy for something like that. So Florida beating Ole Miss right now looks like that's the strongest case for the most important win over that Tennessee was able to enjoy that did not involve the Vols over the weekend. The show brought to you by Banks & Jones. Before we get to the final one, just a reminder, the show is brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
All right, our poll question up right now. What was the best part of the weekend outside of Tennessee's win? Ohio State blowing out Indiana, Florida beating Ole Miss, or Oklahoma beating Alabama? I'm going to get to the results of that in a minute, but the final one of this is Oklahoma beating Alabama. That happened Saturday night. Oklahoma didn't just beat Alabama. They blew out Alabama. Made Kalen DeBoer look really, really, really bad, although I said from the start Jalen Milroe was not a fit for this offense, and that the first year would be a 3-loss team. And it looks like Oklahoma used the same concepts that Tennessee used to force Jalen Milroe to drop back from the pocket and not really use his legs. And it worked. It worked to perfection. Only Brian Kelly didn't know to do that when he was at LSU. Ever since Tennessee has done it, the book has been out. Now, so what happened with Oklahoma over Alabama? That one's kind of bittersweet, guys, for Tennessee. And I'm going to explain why. First of all, it does help Tennessee because Tennessee's now ahead of Alabama, clear-cut in the college football playoff race. That's another team that does not deserve to be ahead of Tennessee. However, Tennessee's quality wins also took a hit with Alabama losing. And here's why that's really bad. Because Georgia lost, no, I'm sorry, not Georgia, because Ole Miss lost, you can make a strong case for Tennessee to get the head-to-head advantage to move ahead of Alabama. And because that didn't happen, so it wouldn't have mattered if Alabama won or lost. Tennessee just lost a quality win. Now their best win is against a 3-loss team in Alabama. On the other hand, Tennessee did play Oklahoma earlier in the year. And while they won 25-15, that was a game that really could have been 40-0. And Oklahoma, now under Brent Venables, is going to a bowl game. So just like Florida, that's another bowl-eligible team that Tennessee beat. So Tennessee went into the weekend having just beaten one bowl-eligible team and having just played 2 bowl-eligible teams. They leave the weekend having beaten 3 bowl-eligible teams and played 4 bowl-eligible teams. That's a really good benefit for them. And also, Oklahoma and Florida could both very well finish 7-5. I told you guys that Florida visits Florida State later this week. Oklahoma visits LSU. LSU seems to have quit on their team. Don't overlook the fact that Oklahoma might win that game. I just want to point that out. Oklahoma could very well beat LSU. They are now reinvigorated under Brent Venables, and LSU has quit. Even though it's at LSU, don't sleep on that. Meanwhile, Tennessee will play its 5th bowl-eligible team with a chance to beat its 4th bowl-eligible team this week when they play Vanderbilt. So the Oklahoma win over Alabama does not hurt Tennessee's strength of schedule. You could say it hurts their resume in one way, but it actually helps the resume in another. So with that, Oklahoma's win over Alabama, kind of a wash on that, except for Tennessee moving up in the college football playoff ranking. So in overall, it's a benefit. And then there's the added benefit of Alabama losing, and then there's a rivalry factor there, and no Tennessee fan is going to sleep in on Alabama losing. Everybody likes that. So the poll question, what are the results? What is the best part of the weekend outside of Tennessee's win? Oklahoma beating Alabama, Florida beating Ole Miss, or Ohio State blowing out Indiana? Oklahoma beating out Alabama edges out with a plurality at 48%. However, Florida beating Ole Miss does come close at 45%. Ohio State blowing out Indiana is at 6%. It's at 6%. I think Florida beating Ole Miss is the clear-cut best one for Tennessee. It objectively helped Tennessee's strength of schedule, improved it. Oklahoma beating Alabama was a wash, and it knocked the college football playoff team out. So even if you hate Florida, even if you hate Alabama, from Tennessee's perspective, sorry, Florida beating Ole Miss was the best thing that happened for Tennessee. Portions of the program are brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. That's hemphousechatwith2ts.com, hemphousechatwith2ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off, hemphousechatwith2ts.com. So part of the win that happened over the weekend, when Florida beat Ole Miss, Tennessee fans were cheering on the Vols blowing out UTEP, and by this point, Tennessee was blowing out UTEP. However, something very odd happened in that game, and that is Tennessee fans were doing the Gator Chomp. Yes, that's right. Tennessee fans were doing the Gator Chomp as Florida beat Ole Miss. I'm going to play the clip for you real quick. It was something that no one has ever seen before. It's kind of shocking that this would happen, but yes, Tennessee did do the Gator Chomp after they saw Florida beat Ole Miss while they were watching their team beat up on UTEP. There's been a lot of jokes about this recently. So a lot of people are asking, embarrassing? Worthy of celebration? How should Tennessee fans take the fact that they did the Gator Chomp, the chant of one of their biggest rivals and most hated teams? Well, guys, I'm going to bring up the fact that there is precedent for this. This isn't the first time Tennessee has had to be Florida fans in hopes of making noise with the SEC or the college football playoff race. Back in 2003, yes, over 20 years ago, Tennessee lost to Auburn and Georgia in back-to-back weeks. They had beaten Florida. Ole Miss had beaten Florida. Georgia had one loss to LSU. Georgia played Florida. If Florida won, there would be a 3-way tie for first in the East. Every Tennessee fan put on a Ron Zook hat and put on a Gator uniform and cheered like heck for Florida to beat Georgia, which, by the way, they did. At the same time, by the way, Tennessee was slumping to an ugly win over Duke. I think they won like 23-6. It was a really ugly win, and that was a bad Duke team pre-David Cutcliffe. Tennessee winning that game was exciting, but everybody was more focused on the Florida-Georgia game. And so when Florida won, Tennessee was thrilled, invigorated. The next week, they went to beat Miami, and the signs pointed to them possibly winning the East at 10-2, but there was a tiebreaker scenario, and Georgia ended up getting the tiebreaker. However, with that in mind, let's point out the fact that Tennessee they were always going to pay more attention to what happened with Florida and Ole Miss and Indiana and Ohio State. They were playing UTEP, guys. They were playing UTEP. They weren't going to be able to focus on that game, and you saw that in the first half. They struggled to focus on the first game. They struggled to play well in the first quarter. The team did. The energy seeped through and oozed onto the team in that moment. I think doing the Gator Chomp is not as embarrassing as people think. I mean, you do the chomp and you do the chant of teams you need to help you sometimes. Tennessee found themselves in a position where they needed help to go and get into the college football playoff. And once you need help, you sometimes have to debase yourself. And in that situation, Tennessee debased itself by doing the Gator Chomp. But there's nothing wrong with that. They could easily do it. And by the way, for those questioning, the hate can go in multiple ways, because not only does Tennessee hate Florida, but they also hate Lane Kiffin. So truth be told, there's nothing wrong with them doing the Gator Chomp, because it could be as much a direct shot at Lane Kiffin as it could Florida helping them. It was twofold, and they already beat Florida this year. So it's really not as debasing as people think. I think Tennessee has nothing to be ashamed of by doing the Gator Chomp. I'm going to set up a poll question on what you guys think about that. But first, the show is brought to you by Medicare Misty.
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All right, so the poll question is up. What do you make of Tennessee fans doing the Gator Chomp? No big deal or embarrassing? And we'll give those results soon after this. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing the Gator Chomp. I think it's absolutely no big deal. I think Tennessee fans were super relieved and super thrilled when they saw Jackson Dart throw back-to-back interceptions. By the way, I want to point out the fact that Billy Napier absolutely embarrassed himself with his coaching in that game. He mismanaged 2 timeouts in horrific fashion and did everything to keep Ole Miss in the game. Detail-oriented Billy Napier looks like a reinvigorated coach right now because of the fact that he just beat Ole Miss and LSU on the road. But his messed up coaching down the stretch of that game could have proven really costly, and he could have been fired on the spot. But Florida beating Ole Miss, look, if you're a Tennessee fan, this shows the maturity of Tennessee fans, okay? Tennessee fans are extremely mature. They understand that the success of their program matters more than hating your rivals. That's just how this works out, okay? And so, truth be told, there's nothing wrong with it. I'll just give you an example. In 1997, Tennessee lost to Florida. In 2003, they beat Florida and Alabama. But in 1997, with Peyton Manning, Tennessee won the SEC championship. So, truth be told, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying the 97 season was a more successful one than the 2003 season. I don't see how that's an issue. Steve Sullivan says UT fans did the tomahawk chop during the 1998 national title game against Florida State once the game was in hand. Yeah, but see, that's a little bit different because that would be doing the tomahawk chop to disrespect Florida State, excuse me. Tennessee was doing the Gator Chomp to cheer Florida. So it's a little bit different. Derek says the irony of Billy beating Lane when Florida 3 weeks ago was chanting, "We want Lane." That is kind of funny. If I'm Florida, Billy or Derek, I would still hire Lane Kiffin. I'm just going to say that. So I know controversial, but that's what I would do. I really don't mind Tennessee doing the chant of rivals. I really don't. I have no problem with it whatsoever. Again, they needed their rivals to help them out. Would you rather lose to your rivals, prop up your rivals, or not accomplish the goals you want to accomplish for the season? Rivalries are based off accomplishing the goals you want to accomplish for the season. Tennessee accomplished those goals. There is nothing wrong with fans doing the Gator Chomp. I just have to point that out, okay? Tennessee fans are totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I think that, if anything, that kind of is what makes college football fun, is that sometimes you have to cheer for your rivals with or without respect for them. So truth be told, I give Tennessee fans a lot of credit for it. I think the worst type of fans are the ones that say, I'd rather go 2-10 as long as I beat my rivals. No, you wouldn't. That just makes no sense. Okay? Your most important thing is to accomplish your goals. I asked Tennessee fans this. Would you rather win a natty but lose to Florida, Georgia, and Alabama in the same season, which, by the way, is possible now because of the 12-team playoff? Or would you rather beat Florida and Georgia and Alabama in the same season but not make the playoff? You're taking the former. Your goal is for the championships, okay? That's your ultimate goal. So, no, I got no problem with Tennessee going out and doing the Gator Chomp. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. They should not be upset about it. And that's my stance on it. Our poll question right now, what do you make of Vol fans doing the Gator Chomp? No big deal or embarrassing? 89% say no big deal. 11% say embarrassing. Yeah, that's right. 89% say no big deal and 11% say embarrassing. I agree with Tennessee fans. There's nothing wrong with doing the Gator Chomp. I got a lot of questions on the board about SEC officiating. We're going to get to SEC officiating, guys. Don't worry, we will. But that's a little bit later in the show. But for right now, just talking about Tennessee and games affecting Tennessee. Yes, the Gator Chomp, Tennessee fans doing it. Yes, usually you do it to disrespect the team when you beat them. But if you need that team to help you, I mean, I guess you could call it a little bit debasing, but I see nothing wrong whatsoever with actually doing the Gator Chomp. Kudos to Tennessee fans. It was an epic and fun game, and it was an epic and fun Saturday. They don't get many like that. You don't get many Saturdays like that where in November everything breaks right for you. And battered Vol syndrome has made that even harder. So if you needed your rival to win to overcome that, then you needed your rival to win to overcome that. I really don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I would say Tennessee should say roll tide. If Alabama beats somebody, Tennessee needs Alabama to beat one day to go somewhere. I mean, hate me, but I would actually, chant roll tide. Do what you need to do. And I think the other fans would do exactly the same thing. So there's nothing wrong with that. Portions of the program are brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. The show is brought to you by Banks & Jones, banksandjones.com. When we come back, got a little This Day in Tennessee history, stat of the day, and we're going to talk a little bit about Tennessee's college football playoff goals. So bear with us, guys, real quick. 2 minutes. We will be right back.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover, cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas.
Welcome back to the program. Portions of the program are brought to you by Varner Ford. Local you trust, innovation you can afford. Go to www.rayvarnerford.com. Before we move on, this day in Tennessee football history. On this day back in 1950, the Vols had by far their most historic win over Kentucky. Tennessee beat a Wildcats team that entered the game undefeated and ranked number 3 in the nation under head coach Bear Bryant. UT had one loss under General Robert Neyland, was ranked number 9, and ended up winning 7-0 at home at Shields Watkins Field's now Neyland Stadium. The reason they won is because the game was played in the middle of the Great Appalachian Storm of 1950, which was an unprecedented blizzard that hit the region at the time. Largely because of the snow, there were a total of 18 turnovers in the matchup, guys. Yes, that's right. 18 turnovers. Most people agree that Kentucky was the better team, but the weather and the elements made for a crazy game, and you really couldn't determine who was actually more qualified to win that game because it was just such a fluke on how it played out. That further fueled the narrative that not only is Kentucky cursed against Tennessee, but Bear Bryant was cursed against Robert Neyland because Bear Bryant could not beat Neyland, and it drove him crazy. Both teams, as I told you, both teams ended up going on to claim the national title that year. Kentucky technically got the SEC title, though, because they played one more game. That's this day in Tennessee football history. Probably one of the most exciting November games Tennessee's ever enjoyed. Back then, they would play Kentucky the final Saturday of November, and then they would play Vanderbilt in the first weekend in December a lot of times. So Tennessee did. That was, again, one of the most thrilling tales and one of the most thrilling periods, honestly, in Tennessee football history. General Robert Neyland, for those who don't know, this was his third stint. He had 3 stints, one from 1926 to 1934, had one break in 1935 for wartime called active service duty. Then he returned and coached from 1936 to 1940. Many people call that the golden age of Tennessee football, where from 1938 to 1940, they did not lose one regular season game. They won 3 straight SEC titles. One went perfect in 1938. They did lose their bowl games in 39 and 40, but in 39, they went the entire regular season undefeated and untied and unscored on. Went back to active duty because of World War II. Returned in 1946, and while winning the SEC title in 46 and 47 and 48, had back-to-back 500 seasons, and there was talk that General Neyland was losing his luster. And so Neyland, in that moment, stuck with the single wing and just upped his recruiting. And by upping his recruiting, he ended up getting legends like Doug Atkins, Hank Larcella, guys that are just their name is in lore in Tennessee football history. And that resulted in a rebound in 49. And then in 50, that was when this game happened. They claimed a national title because they beat Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and Kentucky, who they beat, went on to beat Oklahoma, and Army, who was also undefeated, lost to Navy afterward. And in 1951, Tennessee ran the gauntlet. They started the year ranked number 1 and finished the regular season ranked number 1 to claim the consensus national title, although they did lose to Maryland in the Sugar Bowl. Bowl games were glorified exhibitions during that time. All right. Some breaking news for Tennessee, and I'm seeing it on the message board, and we're going to get to it now. I'm going to talk about Tennessee basketball's win over Baylor on Friday a little bit later in the show. But first, it is looking like Tennessee basketball post player JP Estrella is going to miss the rest of the 2024-25 season. He's going to get surgery on his left foot. It's been a lingering injury. He sent out a post on social media. I'm just going to read the comment to you guys real quick. Vol Nation, I'm disappointed to share with all of you that, unfortunately, my 2024-25 season is over. I will be getting surgery on my left foot. This has been a lingering injury, and it's important to get it addressed. While I'm saddened that I won't be able to compete the remainder of the season, I remain so excited to be a part of this program and will do everything I can to support my brothers as we continue to work towards our goals. I'm grateful for the support of my coaches, training staff, teammates, and family. I'll attack my rehab process and be back better than ever next season. In the meantime, I can't wait to see all of you at Food City Center and share a whole bunch of W's with you. Go Vols, JP Estrella. Look, guys, I'm one of the highest people on Tennessee basketball. JP Estrella has been one of the great development stories of Rick Barnes. There was a belief that he was going to turn into a star as he looked very strong down the stretch last year. So, yeah, this is actually kind of a devastating injury for Tennessee. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to lie. This is a devastating injury. I don't think he would have been a starter, but he's a very good reserve big off the bench. Does it eliminate the goals for Tennessee this year or what's possible? No. Felix Opera and Igor Milicic Jr. are still the heart and soul of the interior. Okay, Opera is Jonas Adu with more mental toughness, if I'm being honest with you. Igor Milicic Jr. has more finesse than anybody. As a matter of fact, Igor Milicic Jr. was a huge get and is the reason Estrella is not as big of a loss, because he can stretch the court in a way that just wasn't possible back in the day. So I have to be honest, it's not the best, but when you have three bigs, you can still be in a good situation. So JP Estrella going down is definitely not good news for Tennessee basketball. I'm not going to pretend it is. But the truth be told, I do think Tennessee can overcome it with their situation. So where do they go from here? How does Tennessee move on from JP Estrella being hurt? There's a lot of ways that they can manage this. Obviously, like I told you, Felix Opera and Igor Milicic Jr. are the main ones. They're the ones who have to really, really, really step up now. I don't know if they will, but they do. They have to step up now, and that's going to be the big part for them. Then the guards are just going to have to stand in. The guards are going to have to step up and be stars in this game. They're going to have this Tennessee team is guard-driven. These are the only three bigs left on the team, Milicic, Phillips, and Opera. So in reality, Rick Barnes is going to have to go more small ball and play a lot better with his guards. But hey, you know what? Maybe that's what he should be doing anyway. Okay, we've been talking about this for a while, that Rick Barnes doesn't play enough small ball. That's his old, it's a little old school style of his. So truth be told, maybe Rick Barnes will play more tempo. He's probably going to go more four-guard sets now with JP Estrella out because, again, he can only play three true bigs at a time. So Tennessee's size advantage is not what they had hoped it would be, but that doesn't actually mean that this season is over. Okay, it doesn't. I don't panic yet. That's all I could really say about that. Portions of the program are brought to you by the UPS Store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. UPS Store in Hardin Valley. Again, with the JP Estrella issue, Tennessee has been looking good so far without him as it is. I think there are a lot of things going on that Tennessee can work around. If everybody else can stay healthy, they can manage to cover for him. So what are they going to do then? I told you guys, Rick Barnes is going to play a little small ball. I think what's also going to happen is when Darlington Dubar gets fully healthy and is ready and back and able to go, he's not unhealthy. He's just been dealing with a personal issue. But when he's ready to go, I think they're going to move him down into the post a little bit. Dubar is 6'6", 220. He could probably play the stretch four given that size. So I think a lot of times when Rick Barnes does go small, he'll have Darlington Dubar at the four. So we're going to see how that works out. But largely, he's probably just going to alternate in a three-man rotation between Cade Phillips, Felix Opera, and Chaz Lanier. I don't think this is the absolute worst thing that could have happened to Tennessee basketball. I really don't. I think Tennessee will end up being okay with despite the JP Estrella injury. But I'll be honest with you, it's not something you hoped for. A lot of what I was talking about with Tennessee was how good they look was, with the caveat of that's also because they don't have Darlington Dubar back ready to go. They do now, but they don't have him at full strength, and they don't have JP Estrella fully healthy. It looks like they're never going to have JP Estrella fully healthy. So that's a big loss. Our thoughts are with JP Estrella. He's still going to be a great development project for Rick Barnes. I mean, Rick Barnes develops, we always talk about his guard play and the guards he gets, but he does develop bigs very, very well too. And I think he's going to develop JP Estrella over time. And honestly, this is just an extra year for JP Estrella to develop. And as mentioned, Cade Phillips has improved a lot, truth be told. And Cade Phillips, I believe, was more highly touted than JP Estrella. So I think this is a big deal. I think Cade Phillips it's just time for him to step up. Just recently, he had a game where he scored double figures. That was against Baylor, where he had 11 points. So I think if he can do that, and against Austin Peay, he managed to score 13 points. So Cade Phillips is showing a lot of promise. He's now going to log even more minutes. So it's not all bad for Tennessee. Injuries happen. Rick Barnes has depth. Rick Barnes has talent. He's still got the offense and the scoring he needs. He's got everybody in his starting five. So while this is a big loss in terms of what Tennessee hopes is an extra weapon, it's not a loss in terms of the matchups that will cost them in the NCAA tournament. And I think that's what's important to remember, is that JP Estrella, Tennessee needs JP Estrella to Tennessee could use JP Estrella, but doesn't need him that desperately. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think Tennessee will be fine long-term as the rest of their players mesh, but it does complicate the path just a little bit in hopes of trying to win an SEC or national title, as Rick Barnes is trying to get his first ever national title. We still don't know if he will get it, but he could get close, and having JP Estrella could have helped with that, but he does not have JP Estrella now. So I think the way the bench is going to go, the starting five is still fine. You're talking Zakai Ziegler, Chaz Lanier, Igor Milchik Jr., Jemai Mashak, and Felix Opera. Jemai Mashak's at the 3, Milchik at the 4. And then coming off the bench, you'll have Jordan Gainey, Darlington Dubar is getting worked in. Cameron Carr, who is also banged up, is going to get worked in. But Cameron Carr is hurt right now too. So here's the only drawback on this, and this is a big one, is Cameron Carr being hurt too is going to have Tennessee playing very thin for a little while. Tennessee's probably only going to go 8 deep for a period of time. And I think I just named you the starting 5. Off the bench, you're going to have Cade Phillips. You're definitely going to have Jordan Gainey. And then Darlington Dubar would be your third option off the bench. So that's how deep you'll go. You'll go 8 deep with the injuries you have right now. And Bishop Boswell has shown some promise. A lot of people are excited, but I need to see more. So they could go 9 deep. And Bishop Boswell could develop in that scenario, which is what you want November for. But Cameron Carr being out does complicate this a little bit, but that could help Tennessee again come January as they try to work things out. Cameron Carr, as you guys know, it was announced, is going to miss a period of time. That came out last week, and that was a little bit more of it's a thumb injury. He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks due to a thumb injury. All right, portions of the program are brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. Go to hdknoxville.com, hdknoxville.com. And I'm going to stick with Tennessee basketball for a minute since we're already on the topic. Because before Tennessee football had one of its best Saturdays ever by Brew McCoy getting 2 touchdowns on senior day, the seniors showing out, beating UTEP 56-0, and of course, working their way into the college football playoff race with a bunch of teams ahead of them losing. Tennessee basketball made an exclamation statement Friday night, one that you just have to be proud of. The Vols beat the Baylor Bears 77-62 in dominating fashion. They completely controlled the game from start to finish. This followed how they beat Virginia at their own game the night before, and they won the tournament in the Bahamas. Tennessee is ranked number 11 right now. Baylor was ranked number 13. This was a very good matchup, and Tennessee controlled the game from start to finish. What stood out for Tennessee, obviously, is Chaz Lanier. Chaz Lanier was 7 of 10 from 3. 7 of 10 from 3. And scored 25 points on the night. That followed him scoring 26 against UVA the night before, where he had more than the rest of Virginia's starting 5. Virginia's entire starting 5 did not score as much as Chaz Lanier when they faced UVA. He was dominant again in that game. Igor Milchik Jr. continues to prove that he's a gigantic weapon and perfect for the system that they run with his inside-out game, as he scored 10 points. Both Lanier and Milchik. That is an inside-out scoring presence, guys, that's going to be hard to match. I'm just going to tell you this right now. With or without JP Estrella, Now, yes, Cameron Carr's got to get back. But with or without JP Estrella, Tennessee basketball is a national title contending team. I mean, they are. I know that's crazy. You may find that insane, but Tennessee basketball is easily a national title contending team, okay? The Vols, I said last week that they probably wouldn't be able to replace Dalton Connect, but they could recreate him in the aggregate. I might stand corrected on that. They may be able to replace Dalton Connect. Chaz Lanier is an incredible go-to scorer for Tennessee. Now, he doesn't have to connect size, so he can't do all the other things, but he is 6'4", 199. He's averaging 17.5 points a game, 2.5 rebounds, and he's getting better as time goes on. Of course, the caveat. Chaz Lanier is winning and playing well because he's shooting so well from three. And obviously, when you shoot this well from three, you're naturally going to you're just naturally going to put up a lot of points and look like an elite scorer. But Chaz Lanier has proven he can manufacture points at different times. Now, this is where they recreate things in the aggregate. If Chaz Lanier is off, then Zakai Ziegler is likely to be on. Now, he was off throughout the tournament in the Bahamas, but that can happen sometimes. Jemai Meshack is capable of being on. Off the backcourt, Jordan Gainey can get on. In this game alone, Jordan Gainey was 3 of 6 from 3, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, and scored 16 points. He's a weapon. So Tennessee has a lot of backcourt weapons if Chaz Lanier is not hitting. And then most notably, and I keep bringing him up, guys, he hasn't showed out yet. Darlington Dubar only played 12 minutes, and he was only 1 of 3 with 3 points. But that was a three-pointer he hit. He grabbed 4 rebounds, had a steal, and had an assist. Darlington Dubar is going to be an elite scoring option for Tennessee from anywhere on the court once all of this is taken care of, guys. I promise you, this Tennessee basketball team is a national title contending team. There is no debating that. Now, in terms of the interior, they didn't have JP Estrella, but Cade Phillips came in and dropped 11 points and had 4 rebounds in 21 minutes, okay? Felix Okpara had 3 points, 3 rebounds, but he is an athletic scrapper and has proven, like Cade Phillips, they can win the physical duels under the basket, which is a huge deal. And of course, then there's Igor Milchik, who can stretch the court like I told you guys, and get you 10 points. Guys, Tennessee has a lot of scoring options on this team. I think right now, just with the healthy players they have 8 guys who could average double figures. And yes, Darlington Dubar will prove he can average double figures. And I'm also going to say that Jemai Meshack, if he needed to, could average double figures as well. So truth be told, I got no problem with Tennessee and their basketball team. I don't think there's any weakness on this team. Guys, I'm dead serious. I think, like I said, they can recreate Dalton Connect in the aggregate. That sounds crazy, but truth be told, I don't know what else you guys would think about this. I mean, they blew out Baylor. Baylor's a good basketball team, okay? We're talking about a program that's just a couple years removed from a national title. Now, caveat, Baylor got blown out by Gonzaga to open the year, 101-63. That was at Gonzaga, though. Gonzaga's a very good team. They returned home to beat Arkansas 72-67. Since then, they blew out Sam Houston 104-67, blew out Tarleton State 104-41, and they got a thrilling win over St. John's 99-98 the night before they played Tennessee. I'll give you 2 caveats and drawbacks, though, outside of the blowout. Well, there's the blowout at Gonzaga. And even though they have 2 wins over ranked teams, when they played Tennessee, they were gassed from playing an overtime game the night before at St. John's. So they were a little more tired. These tournaments are gimmicky, but this is a quality win in Tennessee's cap. It's a win away from home. Those things are huge deals, and Tennessee continues to find scoring options, which is what they need to be able to continue to win games. Okay, so I think Chaz Lanier is their go-to guy. He could be their Dalton Connect from a scoring perspective. I'm just going to be honest. Rusty Shackelford says, Moneyball. You're right. When I said recreate Dalton in the aggregate, it's literally a Moneyball scenario. You're absolutely right, and that's what Tennessee's doing. So I think Tennessee is going to be fine. Now, I'm going to set that up as a poll question real quick, so bear with me here, guys. But the question is, what do you make of Tennessee basketball? And I'm going to say national title contender, I'm going to say in big trouble without JP Estrella. So here, I'll say it this way. How about this? Is Tennessee basketball a national title contender? The answers will be yes, and not without JP Estrella will be the no. So you guys vote on that. We're going to get that set up. I think they still are. This team is incredibly good. This team is as elite as it could possibly be. I'm telling you, at any given night, somebody outside of Chaz Lanier will score double figures, and Chaz Lanier is going to consistently score double figures, okay? He is a guy they can go to when everything breaks down. Now, will he keep shooting like this? I don't think so. And again, I'll give you guys another caveat that Georgia did beat St. John's 66-63 just recently, but I'll also add that St. John's blew out Virginia 80-55, and St. John's was tired from the Bahamas trip and the overtime game, and maybe Georgia's better than we thought too. So I'm saying all that to point out how good of a program Baylor actually is at this moment. I think Tennessee is a national title contender. I do. And right now the poll is split 50-50. Yes, 50%. No, not without JP Estrella at 50%. Guys, they are. I having watched enough of this team, I think they are easily a national title contender, even without JP Estrella. Rick Barnes has done a great job building this roster. And I told you guys that he was uniquely positioned for this era of college basketball because he could find guys that were elite scorers at lower levels that didn't get noticed coming out of high school, but would get noticed now, but now can transfer because of the new transfer portal rules. Can you throw a little bit of money at them for NIL, and these guys will want to play for 1 year at a program and under a coach that can develop them to get a shot at the NBA, and they're willing to fully buy into the system. I think Chaz Lanier is that guy this year. Dalton Connect was that guy last year. Darlene Stone Dubar plays like Dalton Connect, so he could be that guy this year, okay? So I just want to point out there's a lot of things working in the favor of Tennessee basketball, and truth be told, Tennessee is in great shape. So Chad Morris asked, how was Baylor gassed when Tennessee didn't get to play till 10? They had less rest. That's a great point. They had less rest, but it was a night game the next day, Chad, and part of being gassed is how long you play. And when you play an overtime game like that in a slugfest, you're going to be more tired. Tennessee coasted to a dominating victory over Virginia. So, and Adam says, according to the TV commentators, Baylor had terrible conditioning. That is kind of funny. I think Tennessee is well conditioned. That's a great part of their program. They also go very deep. Again, they just have a lot of scoring options. So I think Tennessee basketball long-term, while they are going to miss JP Estrella, still has a lot to be excited for. They're still in great shape. They're going to be fine. And I think they are a national title contender. That's impressive. Guys, they didn't have Cameron Carr or JP Estrella when they played Baylor. And they didn't just beat them. It wasn't like a fluke win. They blew them out. The question is going to become, what can Tennessee do when a player like Chaz Lanier is not red hot from three? Because of Chaz Lanier and Jordan Gainey, they were 12 of 27 on the night. I believe, though, that Tennessee has enough players that somebody's going to get hot at any given point. So that player could do enough for them to win any game. Maybe not 77-62 over a top 15 caliber team, but maybe a 5-point win or something like that. That's where things are really critical. Portions of the program are brought to you by Joe Neubert Collision Center. For nearly 50 years, Neubert Collision Center has been East Tennessee's best choice for quality repair work and fantastic customer service. Joe Neubert Collision Center. When we come back, we're going to ask, could Tennessee get a college football playoff home game? And more importantly, though, do they really want a college football playoff home game? You may be surprised by my answer, guys. I'll come back with that 2 minutes. Stick with me.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team that gets the job done. It's Ford commercial truck season at Varner Ford in Clinton, where our strong lineup is built for power and performance. Step up your game in this new 24 F-150 4x4 Super Crew, $46,997. At 250 cargo van, $50,950. 24 Ford Maverick XLT Hybrid, $28,929.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Varner Ford, built for the game.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. The show is brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. Link is in the chat below. peakivhydration.com. So we're going to get back to football a little bit. Tennessee football was number 11 in the college football playoff rankings last week. Because of the 2 auto bids, they were 1 spot out. Over the weekend, 3 teams ahead of them lost. Indiana, Alabama, Ole Miss. Alabama and Ole Miss both have 1 more loss than Tennessee now, so it's very clear that Tennessee is going to move up 2 spots in the college football playoff ranking at the minimum. They will move up to at least number 9. The question is if Indiana will drop below them, at which point they would move up to number 8. Now, because of the auto bids below them from conference champions and one of those auto bids having to get a top 4 seed, whatever seed Tennessee is, you have to drop them 1 spot. So if they get the number 9 seed, if they're number 9 in the playoff, they would have the number 10 seed. If they're number 8 in the playoff, they would have the number 9 seed. But that opens the door for them to now have a home playoff game because they're going to be no more than 2 spots away from a home playoff game. Because remember, you get the 8 seed, you get a home game. How can Tennessee get a home playoff game? If Texas loses to Texas A&M this week, Tennessee's probably getting a home playoff game, guys. Tennessee will finish ahead of Texas. They'll deserve to be ahead of Texas. Texas A&M, funny enough, I think will still go play for the SEC title, if I'm not mistaken, and they wouldn't even go to the playoff. So if Tennessee loses to, if Texas loses to Texas A&M, highly possible, Tennessee's moving ahead of them. Don't sleep on the idea that Notre Dame could lose to USC. If Notre Dame loses to USC, Tennessee can move ahead of them. Now, if Tennessee leapfrogs Indiana, they only have to move ahead of one of those teams to get a home playoff game. But if they don't leapfrog Indiana, then yes, they would need both Notre Dame and Texas to lose. But both is on the table. Now, to a lesser degree, again, is Tennessee potentially just staying ahead of Indiana? So only one of them they have to move ahead of. Indiana maybe losing to Purdue. Potentially Ohio State losing to Michigan, who has played better as of recent. Now, if Ohio State loses to Michigan, I think there's still a strong argument for Ohio State to be better, to be ahead of Tennessee, guys. Sorry, I know, but look, Ohio State did beat number 3 Penn State on the road. That's Penn State's only loss, and they did beat number 5 Indiana. That's Indiana's only loss. So they have 2 quality wins, and they have a better loss against Oregon, who's the number 1 team in the nation. So by all resumes, Ohio State's going to stay ahead of Tennessee if they finish 10-2. The other option is Penn State. But again, they would have to lose to Maryland, who's been awful this year. Penn State had Penn State lost to Minnesota, we would really be talking about a Tennessee home playoff game this year. Instead, Tennessee has to hope for basically Texas and Notre Dame to lose. Those are the 2 most realistic options for Tennessee. But here's the question, and it's an interesting one. What would you rather see for Tennessee in the college football playoff? And I'm putting this question up right now. A home playoff game or a lower seed but an easier road? And here's why I asked the question that way. Does Tennessee want a home playoff game? And here's why I asked that question. If Tennessee gets the home playoff game, it'll be no higher than the 8 or the 7 seed. Okay, like I just told you, they're not moving ahead of Ohio State. Penn State's not losing to Maryland. So Tennessee's not going to get up to the 6 or 5 seed. If they are the 8 or the 7 seed, well, then they will either play the 2 or the 1 seed in the second round. Not only that, in the first round, they'll play the 9 or the 10 seed, who could end up being a very good SEC or Big Ten team. If they get that home playoff game, you're looking at either playing Oregon or, in the case I'm talking about, probably Georgia in the second round of the college football playoff. Yes, Oregon or Georgia. Right now, they're probably looking at the 10 seed most realistically. But if they fall to the 11 seed, which is possible depending on how things work in conference title week and everything like that, they would get the ACC champion in the second round, and they would probably face Notre Dame in the first round. Or if Notre Dame loses to Penn State, who many of us think is not that good. Guys, are we sure Tennessee wants a home playoff game with that? Or would they rather get the easier road? It's a debate. But I will tell you in a second why, bank on it, Tennessee wants a home playoff game, and that would give them the easier road. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, bank on it. Tennessee wants a home playoff game. And I've laid it out all in a column that you can read online right now. But the biggest reason Tennessee wants a home playoff game is this. Tennessee, there are way too many tricky paths to get the draw they want, regardless of where they are in the playoff. And if they get a home playoff game, in all likelihood, they would do it as the 8 seed and possibly play the 9th seed Indiana Hoosiers. All right, so let's look at the teams that would likely be below Tennessee in the college football playoff if they got a home playoff game, if they got the 8 seed, okay? You're talking right now, probably Indiana or SMU. I mean, guys, if they're the 8 seed and Indiana or SMU is the 9 seed, how do you not want the home playoff game in that moment? Obviously you do. I mean, that's an easy home win for you if you're Tennessee. To break down what the playoff would look like right now, basically Oregon, Texas, let's just throw Texas out there, and Miami and Boise State would get first round byes. Arizona State would be the 12th seed, the last seed in. And then Ohio State would be the 5 seed, which is the magic number. Penn State, the 6th seed. Notre Dame, the 7th seed. Georgia, the 8th seed. If you just go by what the AP poll and coaches poll do to guesstimate what the college football playoff is going to do, Tennessee, the 9 seed, or the 10 seed. Miami, the 9 seed or the 10 seed. SMU, the 11th seed. And Indiana actually could be the odd man. Sorry, let me recalculate that. Oregon as the 1 seed. Texas as the 2 seed. Miami as the 3 seed. And Boise State as the 4 seed. Okay. After that, you have Ohio State as the 5 seed. Penn State the 6 seed. Notre Dame the 7 seed. Georgia the 8 seed. Tennessee the 9 or the 10 seed. Miami the 9 or the 10 seed. SMU the 11th seed. And at this moment, Arizona State, the 12th seed, Indiana would be the first team out if the college football playoff goes based on the poll rankings, which we'll talk about tomorrow. The point being, we don't know how this is all going to shake out. But if Tennessee were to move up to get that home game, Miami would obviously easily get the first round bye. So, or the winner Miami SMU, which we all think is going to be Miami, assuming both of those teams keep winning. At which point Tennessee would play SMU or maybe Indiana at home, guys. That's the first round game. So getting a home playoff game probably means a very easy first round game, which honestly makes it worthwhile to play the tougher second round matchup, particularly when you don't know who the toughest matchup is going to be in the second round. I mean, if you get the 10 seed, if you want the 11 seed to have to face a 3 or 4, there's an off chance Georgia gets the 3 seed. And if you get the 10 seed, which you're looking at now, there's an off chance Georgia's the 2 seed. Wouldn't you rather play Oregon than Georgia, even though Georgia has 2 losses? I think you would. So that's why I do think you do want the home playoff game, but not because it's at home, but because if you get the home playoff game, you're probably going to play a very easy team in the first round. Derek says OSU getting all the favoritism. Imagine that. Derek, I'm sorry, but I think Ohio State they have the best resume of any one-loss team. I mean, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame. Who are you going to rank ahead of that? Who are you going to rank ahead of Ohio State? Ohio State has, to their credit, played the other 3 contenders in the Big Ten: Penn State, Indiana, and Oregon. Their only loss is to undefeated Oregon in a very close game. And they beat Penn State on the road and Indiana at home. I mean, you got to give Ohio State credit. Now, did they play a week out of conference schedule? Yes. But unlike Indiana, they shouldn't be punished for that because they actually played other elite teams in conference. So I'm sorry. Ohio State definitely has the best resume of one-loss teams. They deserve to be the 5 seed in the playoff. They should be the 2 seed or the 3 seed in the playoff. I mean, I'm sorry. They should be the 2 seed in the playoff. They should. They deserve to be number 2. But this system is incentivizing the worst things. But the long story short of this, the short end of this is, yes, Tennessee wants a home playoff game. Bank it. I mean, there's just no debate of that. And I think that if Tennessee doesn't get a home playoff game, there could be some more issues with that. I think that Tennessee, let's envision the scenario. Let's say all chalk happens the rest of the way. It just seems likely that in that moment, Tennessee would get the 9 or the 8 seed. And if they would face Indiana or SMU or somebody like that. Now, look, people are laughing and calling it crazy. There's still an outside chance Alabama gets into the playoff, by the way. The same with South Carolina. South Carolina could get in. Ole Miss could get in. Some of these 3-loss SEC teams aren't out of it yet. And more importantly, some of these group of 5 teams, Boise State seems like the favorite, but don't sleep on Tulane. Don't sleep on Memphis playing Tulane this week. Army still should be in it. They lost to Notre Dame. Okay, and Army does play Navy, so they could get another quality win. So, and I think they're going to play. I mean, they could end up playing Navy twice. You guys quote me on that, or is that over? I don't think Army and Navy can play twice now. I think the American is going to come down to possibly Tulane or Memphis. But yeah, it's good. Tulane and Army look like they're in line to play for the AAC championship no matter what. Now they're both 7-0. The others have 2 losses. So that's it. Now the Big 12 pretty much ended any chance at 2 teams, with Arizona State beating BYU and Colorado getting blown out by Kansas. It's going to come down to Arizona State and BYU and the winner of that game. There's no way anybody else from the Big 12 is getting in, and they're going to be the most lowly rated team of the group of 5 team of the conference champion auto bids and have the lowest seed. But again, to the point at hand, yes, Tennessee wants a home playoff game because there's no signs at this point that they're going to have an easier road without the home playoff game. So get the home playoff game. Because one, the biggest focus is the easier road, but all things being equal, home playoff game in December is huge, not just for Tennessee and not just for their brand, but for the college football playoff, a game at Neyland Stadium. You can bring recruits to that, okay? That would be the most lit thing that we have ever seen in college football, guys. Tennessee with a home playoff game. And if Tennessee is able to host Indiana for that, where they could blow them out, that would just be the dream. Of course, they could end up hosting a much better team. What if they host Miami or something like that? I don't think they will, because Miami would have to win the ACC or drop out of the top 12. That's what I think is going to happen. But at the end of the day, Tennessee, yes, they want to get a home playoff game. I think that is their best path forward to trying to advance in the playoff. I'll tell you what, though, the funny thing is, I don't know if you guys know this, Georgia's not happy about Texas A&M's loss to Auburn last week, because Georgia now pretty much is automatically going into the SEC title game, and they don't want to go. They don't want to go. I keep telling you guys this. I don't know if it's going to happen, but somebody is going to potentially throw the SEC title. The only reason Georgia can't is because the committee, who trusts the committee when they say they won't factor in conference title games? I don't, but they shouldn't. So you don't want to give out the vibe that you're throwing it. But again, you can do it like Rick Barnes did in the SEC basketball tournament last year and just say jack up threes. If they hit, they do. If they don't, they don't. So what do I think the college football playoff scenario, the best case scenario for Tennessee at this point is? I take the home game to go face Oregon. I would. I take the home game to go face Oregon. I think the path to face the 3 or 4 seed, which would be the ACC or Big 12 champion, is at this point too great, because to do that, Tennessee would have to be the 5, 6, 11, or 12. Tennessee's not going to drop to the 11 or 12 unless they lose a game, and you don't want to see that from them. And they're not going to move up to the 5 or 6 unless some crazy upsets happen. So that's not going to happen. So the goal is to get into that 8 spot, because they're going to be in the 10-7 range, and at which point they'll play one of the top 2 teams, which will be the SEC or the Big 10 champion. And again, I'd rather play Oregon than Georgia. I'd rather play Oregon on a neutral field than Georgia. People can call me crazy on that, but I think Georgia is a better team. I think Georgia would win easily in a matchup on a neutral field. I think Vegas would favor Georgia. So when you take that into account, I don't think there's any way you could possibly say that Tennessee, I don't think there's any possible way that you could honestly think that Tennessee shouldn't want to get a home playoff game. I think that's the best way to do it. Now, the poll question, most of you guys agree with me. 96% say you would rather a home playoff game, and only 4% say a lower seed with easier foes. Yeah, I'm probably with you guys on that. I wouldn't have been for a while, but I probably am now. The show brought to you by TristarHatsCo.com, TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TristarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TristarHatsCo.com. That's TristarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TristarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
All right, stat of the day. Before we get to the stat of the day, I want to bring up the point that the portions of the program are brought to you by Work Trucks. Work Trucks with an X. We're all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with nap hide work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, remember Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com. Worktrucksllc.com with an X. Why risk chancing your future in business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Worktrucksllc.com. Work Trucks will also work to make sure you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll even find the perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. All right, stat of the day. Here's a fun one for you guys. Ready? With his 22nd rushing touchdown on Saturday against UTEP, Dylan Sampson surpassed Gene McKeever's scoring record for Tennessee. McKeever set the mark with 130 points in 1929. Sampson now has 132. He had already broken McKeever's single-season rushing touchdown record from that year, which was 18. So now Sampson has the Tennessee all-time scoring record as well. He scored a touchdown against UTEP on Saturday. 22 touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns clear of Gene McKeever. Guys, Dylan Sampson has just been a beast this year. He's still got another game to play, plus the college football playoff, which is going to inflate records everywhere. I mean, you can't deny that. So major props to Dylan Sampson. Just an incredible player, has shown a lot of resilience and a lot of improvement this year. And you got to give Dylan Sampson his credit. Stat of the day brought to you by Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. www.qualitytirepros.com. Say Off the Hook sent you. Go in and say, hey, Bo, qualitytirepros.com. All right. Want to move a little bit away from Tennessee for a minute because we got somebody to make fun of, guys. And that somebody is who we all consider now the biggest goofball in the SEC. And I'm talking about Eli Drinkwitz. Kind of wanted to leave him alone and get over talking about him. But if you guys didn't see over the weekend, Eli Drinkwitz just flat out embarrassed himself when Missouri beat Mississippi State 39-23 last Saturday. I'm sorry, 39-20. Missouri ranked number 23. They have 3 losses on the year. Just happens to be the only 3 teams that they face that are ranked right now. And one of those, the only 3 that they face that are ranked right now. So they're 0-3 against ranked teams, and they've beaten everybody else. Congratulations. By the way, 2 of those losses are 41-10 to Texas A&M and 34-0 to Alabama. So real good, Missouri. Real congratulations. Well, they were beating Mississippi State 39-20 over the weekend, and Eli Drinkwitz decided that he was going to there was a little bit of taunting going on late in the game. It was like a 2nd and goal in the 4th quarter. Game's running out. Missouri's near the goal line. Eli Drinkwitz decided to, let's just say, shout some uncouth language at Mississippi State because he's going through a midlife crisis and think he's being cool. Let's just watch this real quick. Hey, Mississippi State, shut the bleep up or I'm going to score. If you read it, you can easily see that he says, shut the bleep up or I'm going to score. Yeah, that's what Eli Drinkwitz chants at Mississippi State because there's a little bit of jawing going on at the end of the game when Missouri has the ball up 39-20, 2nd and goal with 1:09 left, and they can run the clock out. That's what Eli Drinkwitz thought would be funny to say. This dude's an embarrassment. I have no doubt that he knows ball. I have no doubt that he's a smart guy, that he understands a lot of things, but that's just pathetic, man. That's just so pathetic to say, hey, shut the bleep up or I'm going to score. Really? Really? Look, Eli Drinkwitz, here's what's so frustrating and hypocritical about this. Eli Drinkwitz has been throwing subtle shots and taking jabs at programs this whole time he's been at Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz acted like it was personal when Josh Heupel ran up the score on him 2 years ago. And that's why when he beat Tennessee last year at the handshake, he said, we stand on business, Josh. Okay. Well, it was all based on how he carried himself. He made a joke about Tennessee's investigations a couple of years ago, threw some shots at Josh Heupel as if Josh Heupel had anything to do with that. And then he does that we stand on business, Josh. And then he chants, hey, Mississippi State, shut the F up or I'm going to score. He was at a basketball game last year at a Missouri-Tennessee basketball game and was talking trash to Tennessee players. Yes, he's 8-3. Yes, he knows offense, but he's such an embarrassment, guys. He's such an embarrassment. He's totally worth laughing at. This is just an embarrassing thing to do. Let me point this out to you guys real quick. Eli Drinkwitz, as I told you, has played 3 ranked teams all year, and he's 0-3 against them. And his best win is against Vanderbilt in overtime, 30-27. I guess you could say he beat Boston College and Oklahoma, too, by 6 points and 7 points. So no convincing wins over a team with a winning record or even close to a winning record at the Power 5 level. Mississippi State, meanwhile, is 2-8. Their wins are over Eastern Kentucky and UMass. They've been struggling all year. They lost to Toledo at home by a larger margin, by the way, than they lost to Missouri at home. So Eli Drinkwitz trying to rub in the fact that he's blowing out Missouri is just one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. Just one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. And here's what's really pathetic about it. Again, he took it personal, Tennessee running up the score on him, which was a response of Josh Heupel taking things personal with how Eli Drinkwitz had behaved and Missouri not hiring Tennessee. He then goes around and says, we stand on business, Josh, when Tennessee beats Missouri last year. Really? Really? Okay, fine. You wanted your response. He made up some excuse, like the players encouraged him to say it, and he was being called out there, and he just couldn't back down, so he just had to say it because Missouri was right, because his players were right there, and it was a bet he made with the players before the game. No, he had planned to say that the whole time. Then he talks trash to a Tennessee player at a Missouri basketball game. Like, everything he did was just pathetic and embarrassing. But if you're going to take personal getting the score run up on you, how about you don't talk trash and laugh about how you could run up the score on a team that is 2-8, hasn't beaten one Power 5 team this year, lost 41-17 to Toledo, and has one win over an FBS school, period, this year. Wow. Let me applaud you, Eli Drinkwitz. Congratulations. You are just the hero the SEC needs. You just stand on business. You take great stances. You are just exactly what the SEC needs. Guys, Eli Drinkwitz is a total joke. I don't care if he wins games. He's a total embarrassment, okay? Dave, when he's on, talks a little bit about Jackie Sherrill. Jackie Sherrill used to play these type of games too. I don't know if you guys know. I mean, he wore the snakeskin boots one time, and he brought up his boots and was like, you guys going to say something about this? Stephen Berryman goes, yeah, Caleb, but is he in the playoffs or is Tennessee? Is that a joke? Tennessee is. I guess you're saying because it should be a shot at Eli Drinkwitz. Okay. But there was that. Jackie Sherrill one time, after firing Jolie Dunn went to coach under Tommy West, and Jolie Dunn said there was some little hint that Memphis wanted to beat Mississippi State for Jolie Dunn, and it didn't happen. And Jackie Sherrill shakes Tommy West's hand at the end and was like, that was for Jolie, and like I have to make this point. It's such a goofy thing to do, such a lame thing to do. And Eli Drinkwitz is, let's just call it what it is. He's just lame. He's just lame. He's pathetic. And doing something like that is just, it really speaks to who he is. Again, you're bragging and laughing and deciding to talk trash about a team that's 2-8. I can't get over that, guys. They were 2-8 in SEC play. This is just embarrassing. I think that Eli Drinkwitz, again, they cashed in on an easy schedule this year and didn't beat anybody good. They've been cashing in on playing in a bad East for a while. Now, again, they have beaten Boston College, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt. But this is the same Eli Drinkwitz that was doing some chirping a couple of weeks ago saying any 10-2 team in the SEC deserves to get into the college football playoff. Please. Missouri did not belong if they went 10-2. I would have put 10-2 Big Ten teams in over them. They have a better schedule than Indiana. Congratulations. I'm going to light into Eli Drinkwitz a little bit more in a second. First, the show is brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
All right, welcome back to the show. Still trashing Eli Drinkwitz. This is Eli Drinkwitz. We have it on good authority that he was willing to sacrifice a couple of wins last year to change up his entire offense just to beat Tennessee. His entire defensive scheme. They threw a completely different look at him, which was a big reason they won that game. Now, the look was the Scotty Walden 3-3-5, which Tennessee struggled more with this year. You can hold Josh Heupel accountable for that, for not adjusting and for not figuring out how to get past this defense. But truth be told, it was pretty embarrassing that Eli Drinkwitz did that last year. And now he's deciding after last week losing to South Carolina and your only other chance at a quality win, to come back and troll Mississippi State like, hey, Mississippi State, shut up or I'm going to score. Really? Again, it's Mississippi State. You're up 39-20. This is a bad football team. Okay? how do you sit there and think you're going to laugh? First of all, Missouri was doing the taunting. If you guys go back and look at the video, Missouri was doing more of the taunting. So I'm sure there was some jawing. I don't know what was said between people, but Missouri was doing the jawing and the taunting as much. So it was pretty embarrassing to do that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put this poll question up for Tennessee fans because we trolled Lane Kiffin today. We trolled Eli Drinkwitz. But yes, we can also troll Shane Beamer. So who do you dislike the most? And we just keep doing this. We've done this poll before, but it's always fun. So Shane Beamer, Eli Drinkwitz, and we're going to add Lane Kiffin. And let's see how that one goes. Among SEC coaches, who do you dislike the most? Shane Beamer, Eli Drinkwitz, Lane Kiffin. I love that suggested poll question from the message board. Thank you, Steve Sullivan, for bringing that up. Guys, I don't know what's in store for Missouri long term, but the reason we're seeing this more from Eli Drinkwitz now is because in his first 3 years, he was 5-5, 6-7, 6-7. We had Pat Dooley on our podcast a couple weeks ago and talked about Steve Spurrier needling opponents. Spurrier waited till he won national championships and SEC championships to do that. Eli Drinkwitz has had none. Spurrier also did it at booster meetings, having a little fun with opposing teams as he was blowing them out, but he never just publicly did it, you know, in a setting that wasn't involving Florida boosters and things like that. He would say it and then it got leaked out, but he was having a lot of fun. Eli Drinkwitz, his version is a lot more embarrassing because he's just trying to have fun while blowing out way, way lesser teams. And again, I think Eli Drinkwitz I think we have to agree, is the biggest goofball in the SEC. I mean, I don't even think it's close. Now, talking trash because you almost beat Mississippi State. I mean, good Lord, guys. I mean, maybe I'll add this as a poll question, but who's a more pathetic goofball, Butch Jones or Eli Drinkwitz? There's a question. So, look, I mean, we just have to be honest. Eli Drinkwitz, he does know offense. He knows offense. He gets credit for the last 3 years, but the truth be told, or the last 2 years, excuse me. But he cashed in on an easy schedule last year, and he's beaten 3 6-5 teams this year. By the way, if chalk holds on those 6-5 teams, I just want to point out they're all favored to finish 6-6 by the end of the year because Boston College plays Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is going to be favored in that game, even though Pittsburgh has lost after 7-0 start, has lost 4 straight. Boston College could be the one to finish 7-5, but Oklahoma visits LSU. LSU's favored. Vanderbilt visits Tennessee. Or Tennessee visits Vanderbilt. Tennessee is going to be favored in that game. Eli Drinkwitz just embarrassing himself for a program that, again, he's doing well there. He's doing as well as you could do there. I give him credit for that, but to act like he's Steve Spurrier and can needle people is just pretty darn pathetic, honestly. It's kind of one of those embarrassing things. Real quick before we close out on this, I want to point out the show brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas.
For Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas.
All right, the results to our poll question. Who do you dislike the most? Shane Beamer, Eli Drinkwitz, Lane Kiffin. Eli Drinkwitz running away with it. 68%. Lane Kiffin at 24%. Shane Beamer at 9%. Eli Drinkwitz at 68%. Lane Kiffin at 24%. Shane Beamer at 9%. When we come back, we're going to have our last look. We're going to talk about SEC officiating. Yeah, guys, it's bad. It's real bad. and it needs to be called out. And it needs to be called out a lot. So stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
24 F-150 4x4 Super Crew, $46,997. 24 Ford Transit 250 Cargo Van, $50,950. 24 Ford Maverick XLT Hybrid, $28,929. Local you trust, power you can afford.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
Welcome back to the program. I have a new one for you. Who's more pathetic, Eli Drinkwitz or Butch Jones? Eli Drinkwitz at 64%. Butch Jones at 36%. Guys, sorry, but it's definitely Butch Jones. But that's a different debate for another day. Let's get going with our last look, brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hans. And we are going to talk SEC officiating. If you guys remember last week, there was a lot of questionable officiating when Tennessee played Georgia. A lot. The most notable were 2 plays. The Ricky Gibson face mask that wasn't a face mask when a player's helmet came off, and the substitution penalty that is never, ever, ever called. That fueled a conspiracy of trying to get the most SEC teams into a playoff. I was wrong on that, guys. There's no conspiracy. SEC officiating is just bad, and it's inconsistent, and the stuff they do makes no sense. Over the weekend, I don't know if you guys saw, but Alabama, Jalen Milroe, Alabama was trailing 24-3, and he threw a 35-yard touchdown pass to Ryan Williams. I mean, it was a heck of a throw, a beautiful throw that Ryan Williams caught in the end zone. And it was waved off by an illegal touching penalty by a receiver like 5 yards down the line that no one was even looking at. It was just an absolutely horrible, horrible call. And yes, Alabama lost, and everybody was happy about that, but they have been a fourth quarter team, and they have been a comeback team in the past. So to have that touchdown waved off was quite honestly a really, really bad look, because you don't know what could have happened after that. We're talking about a really, really, really good fourth quarter football program, and I'm not saying they would have won, but could they have turned it around and gotten back into the playoff and gotten back into that game? Yes, you guys forget this. When that touchdown was waved off, it was let's see, it was early in the fourth quarter. It was a 4th down at the Oklahoma 36, and it was just a ridiculous penalty to call. It was a total missed one. I'm not going to play it just because of copyright issues, but it was really, really ugly. Also, later that night, and this is where the SEC conspiracy did come in, when Texas A&M was losing to Auburn, a phantom offensive pass interference was called against Auburn in one of the overtimes that could have cost them the game too. It was a ridiculous call. There was no pick set. It was a crossing route. It was very clear, and they made the call. That one looked like it because it looked like they wanted to have Texas A&M with 2 losses. You know, let me steel man real quick the conspiracy side, because I don't believe it anymore. The conspiracy side could have been that the SEC may see Alabama as a chance to get into the playoff anyway, and it's more important for them to maximize their number of bowl teams, at which point they would want to work to get Oklahoma into a bowl. Oklahoma could get into a bowl. Auburn, they're not giving any chance to get to a bowl because Auburn had to play Texas A&M, would have had to beat them, and has to beat Alabama this week. So they're writing that one off. So they would, if their incentive was to rig games, it would be in favor of Oklahoma and Texas A&M, because do you value more bowl teams or do you value more playoff teams? Who knows? I don't think it's that complex, guys. I think officials are just bad. I think they're just really bad, and we just see it more because of betting. Stephen Berryman asked a good question. I want to share it real quick, where he says, Caleb, do you think Greg Sankey and the SEC will finally start addressing the bad officiating and start holding them accountable? Numerous game outcomes could have changed by some bad calls made in them. Stephen, yes, that is true, but I don't think they're ever going to hold officials accountable, and here's why. These guys aren't full-time. To be fair to the officials, they don't have all week to study all of the film of teams. Here's what you do when you're a ref, guys. If you've ever been one, you don't react to things that are called just like, oh, I see it, I call it. That's not how officiating is. You look at teams and players' tendencies, and you're on the lookout for those things more than others because you know what could happen. That's the biggest way officiating changes. And how are they supposed to do that in an accurate way if they don't have a full week to study the teams they're going to be officiating? You see, this is the big problem here. They need to be able to study the teams they're going to be officiating, and they need to be able to study them 40 hours a week and have nothing else get in their way. And not being able to do that is causing a huge problem. Again, you guys, remember the replacement refs with the NFL in 2012? You think officiating is bad now? Wait till they replace them. It gets worse. But it's very obvious. Too many people gamble for this to be acceptable. I think that something does have to be done. I think I'm not for holding the officials accountable. They're overworked, they're underpaid, and they need to be full-time. I'm holding the SEC accountable. I'm holding the league offices accountable. Okay? The league office has mishandled this grossly, and as gambling continues to take over sports, it's only going to get uglier, guys. Officiating is just, it's really, really, really bad. I don't think, and here's what I would do. Make them full-time employees. It can't be that much more. And then the head official has to call a press conference at the end of every game. They have to do a post-game press conference the way a coach has to do a post-game press conference if he wins or loses. Every official has to do a post-game press conference, okay? And they have to answer any questionable calls that were made, and they have to explain it. All right? That's that. Now, look, calls are missed. Sometimes calls get missed. I've seen missed calls when Tennessee's played that I don't think were so blatant to where I haven't called it out. There have been some misholdings. If you guys remember the 2006 LSU game-winning drive where Jamarcus Russell threw a touchdown pass to beat Tennessee, earlier on that drive on a fourth down, he did not on a fourth down, but earlier on that drive, he did fumble. Tennessee recovered. They called him down on the fumble, but it wasn't that obvious, so you couldn't really get mad at that. But truth be told, the officiating has been horrible and more blatant with the calls missed in recent games, and they're going to have to figure this out. Now, Justin Lefevre says, make gambling illegal, and it'll get fixed really quick. Justin, I hate to tell you this, but I think gambling is the only thing holding these guys accountable right now. It's much more under the microscope because of those issues. So I think more than anything, I don't think gambling is the problem. I think officials are overworked, underpaid, don't have the time to study things. And also, more importantly, as Jimmy Hyams reported to us one time, many of the SEC officials, many of the best ones are just getting poached. Guys are just getting poached. And I don't know how you fix that issue, okay? Because once they are good in the SEC, they end up getting hired probably by the NFL or somebody like that, all right? There are long-term SEC officials who have been beloved in the past. I mean, we're talking everybody knows Steve Shaw. Everybody knows Steve Shaw. I mean, he's literally famous for being a great official, okay? So there are good officials, and you can get known for being a good official. But Ashley Allen says, if found by the SEC it was a dirty call, they should be fined, agreeing with me that it should be a full-time job. officiating. And you're right, Ashley. The SEC is a multi-million-dollar conference. Should be making this change. It's so obvious. I totally agree. And I don't understand why they haven't done that. I could maybe get with the fine. I can't say fine because of a bad call, even if they're full-time, because that's like fining a coach for a bad play call. I wouldn't do that, but you'd have to go a little bit further than that. But maybe there is a way to do it where the fines are important. Before we close out talking about this, last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
To visit ccteyes.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at ccteyes.com. Simply the best.
All right, back to it. Yes, welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. We're talking about officiating and SEC officiating. Guys, I also have to say this. The SEC officials look less agenda-driven than other conferences. Go and watch other conferences. It becomes much more clear on the conspiracies to help those conferences. I think with the SEC, the officiating is just bad, and it's more under the microscope because it's the SEC. It just means more. The gambling, the fan base, everybody's paying attention to it. Justin brings up a point. What if we start making penalties reviewable? Well, some of them are. The non-judgment ones are. It's the judgments that are not reviewable. I don't know how I feel about that. I understand why people say it, but it's like, I do get the point where they're like, every call is a judgment call. True. I don't think fouls are reviewable in the NBA, though. That would be a new twist if someone started doing that. There was a debate about it. The other one, Stephen Berryman asked, Caleb, should replay officials be allowed to be able to point it out to them and help them reverse their bad calls? It's hard to do that in the middle of the moment, but that's not a bad idea either. I don't know how you fix judgment calls and foul calls. I don't. I think you open up a lot of can of worms for something like that, guys. Just got to be honest with you. You open up a lot of can of worms. So I think the issues are a lot more deep-seated than we think. I think the truth of the matter is you just got to pay these guys, but I don't think they're going to. Guys, where are the consequences for this? Honestly, where are the consequences? Who's going to hold them accountable? Gamblers who lose money betting on every SEC game every week? People are still going to watch. People are still going to bet. It's not going to change. What incentive does the SEC have to hire full-time officials, or does any conference have to hire the best officials possible and let them focus solely on the game? They don't. And until they do, and I don't know how you get them that incentive. You guys throw some suggestions out, okay? Because I'm not, but truth be told, I really don't think there's any way that I don't really think there's any way you can fix this issue. I hate to say that. So we'll see how it goes, but I just think that the officiating is not going, the poor officiating is not going anywhere soon. We're going to end the show early a little bit today, guys. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. The show brought to you by Asia Cafe. Treat yourself to authentic Asian cuisine, handcrafted from guarded family recipes. 5 locations to choose from. AsiaCafe.com. Also, the show brought to you by Sports Treasures. Sponsors of the program, that is to say, brought to you by Sports Treasures. And also, do not forget to, start over portions of the program brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia and daily updates. Sports Treasures, portions of the program brought to you by them. Here is the QR code for Sports Treasures right here. Don't forget to click on that, and you can get a lot of great stuff there. Also, be sure to join Hooker's Corner for inside coverage and to win grand prizes. Bringing up Hooker's Corner now, you too can be a John. Just $9.98 a month. Again, be sure to join Hooker's Corner. Posting the link in the chat in 1 second. It's our Patreon page, Hooker's Corner. The link is now in the chat below. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in and helping me with this. This was obviously a unique situation. It was just me today, but we had a lot of fun. A big week for Tennessee football. Again, if they beat Vanderbilt, they are in on Saturday. We're going to talk a lot more about that. We'll have a lot more to talk about later in the week. Some hoops, some more football news, the press conference today. We're going to recap a lot of that with Caleb Calhoun This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, turn the notifications on, tell a friend. We're building a lot of great things here at Off the Hook Sports. Again, hit the like button, subscribe button, turn the notifications on, tell your friends. We're on every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern. Once again,